Hi everyone, this is Drew Wharton from Nimble Leader along with Ed Flanagan. Ed is Managing Director with Nimble Leader. He's a CPA MBA. He's also Director with Expense Reduction Analysts, a global cost reduction firm with best practice capability addressing both indirect and direct costs. Ed, before we jump into our session today, would you have anything to add?
Sure do, Drew. Thank you for the introduction. I'm looking forward to this discussion, and I think we've got a lot of value that we can cover today going over the various slides.
Thanks, Ed. During our time today, we will review and discuss practical short-term ways to reduce costs for your business. Okay, let's jump into our first session on how to reduce costs now.
So Ed, I've often heard you say companies overpay suppliers by 10 to 30%. Why is this the case?
Well, Drew, what we find is that if you're selling something, the goal of any supplier is to win business at the best margins that they can. What they try to do is make it difficult for you to get the lowest prices.
Ed, can you share with the group your thoughts on the top 10 procurement misconceptions? What do you see most often?
Yeah, Drew, we've come up with 10 top misconceptions, and some of the bigger ones are a lot of times we find that our clients are very loyal to their suppliers. And a lot of times the suppliers are like family, they're their golf buddy or maybe a relative. And this often leads to higher prices. We found an example where there's a printing company that had no price increases over the last 10 years. We got involved and found savings of over 62%. The other area we find is that a lot of our clients say, oh, we got a great price on a product, and what they bought more than they needed. So we had an instance where they paid, $10,000 for 1,000 product supply, and it would take them 5 years to use up that supply. So that's not really savings. And another one is their purchasing will not, they fail to ask the correct questions when they go out to negotiate. They fail to ask for prebates, they fail to ask for rebates. And we found that in 90% of the cases, companies will commit one of these 10 misconceptions, which contribute to the overspending of 10 to 30%. And this can lead to significant opportunities to recover what we call a hidden cash flow.
Okay, so Ed, these are really glaring examples, and you and I have talked about this before, and you said that there is a path to excellence. Can you share what your insights are as it relates to that comment?
We've highlighted 10 paths to excellence, which are best practices. And some of the biggest ones we find is our clients don't validate their purchase history. We found a situation with a manufacturing company where they had 9 different locations, and each location had a different price for the same services they were receiving. We also found another manufacturer where they had 4 T1 lines, told accounting that they're going to reduce it down from 4 down to 2, and that was never done. And we were able to recover almost $90,000. And we had another example where a company had a nice service for their employees where they were providing daycare, and they were spending over $19,000 a month on diapers. So the thing is, where were those diapers going? And when the CEO heard about this, she was very upset. Another example is you need to understand the suppliers and their industries as well as you do your industry. So it's not a typical strength of companies who are focused on direct costs. What we focus on is the indirect cost. So you want to make sure that you future-proof your contracts. Don't let the suppliers recover their margins once you've negotiated with them. And the thing is, a lot of times it's impossible for companies to have a domain level expertise across all these expense areas. Another one where we find is that our companies are not reevaluating the current supplier relationships. A lot of times the person at the company that gets to go to the golf outings and the ball games is not the best person to negotiate price. We had an example in the Midwest where there was a manufacturer that had just come back from a golf outing to Scotland with 3 of the heads of purchasing. And what we found is after we negotiated and found 40% saving, they can't even get golf balls out of that FedEx supplier anymore. We have found that the longer the supplier relationships, the less likely you will have the best prices or services unless you work for it every day. And remember, the incumbent supplier doesn't think that you'll change. This is called the inertia of incumbency. They know that it's a lot of work to negotiate and make them sharpen their pencil. So they know that a lot of the companies don't have the time to do that.
Okay, so these examples are really tangible and it really kind of makes sense. In our last conversation, you also showed the importance of decide, implement, monitor. Why is this so important to the overall management of the indirect costs?
Well, the important thing there, Drew, is you want to, if you negotiate savings, you want to implement as soon as possible and stop that cash leak. And then once you get the savings, you want to make sure you monitor it, because what will happen is that suppliers will have a tendency to creep prices up in the future. So you want to make sure you're diligently looking all the invoices to fight the price creep.
Okay, everyone, this brings us to the end of our time today. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to Ed or myself. And if we have your email address, we'd be happy to send you a copy of today's slides. In our next briefing on cost reduction, we'll focus on the Pareto principle, supplier density, and why it's likely that 80% of your suppliers are costing you money. And finally, if you should be interested in cost reduction for your business, please note, if we don't find you savings, there's no cost to you. Thanks again for joining us today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.